Hey guys, it's Rob, and I'm just going to make a short video on the process of binding with Spektrum radios. I just read something on one of the threads today on RCU about people having problems with the system's unbinding. Now, I personally haven't had that problem at all in many years of flying and 10,000 flights on various different Spektrum products and helicopters and bind and fly aircraft. But anyway, something I read today is quite interesting, and that's if you inadvertently or accidentally press the bind button on your radio when you power it up, if it does not detect a receiver that is in binding mode, it will actually default to the DSM protocol. And anyway, I wanted to test that for myself, so let me just take you through a couple of bind situations, and let's see if we can replicate that problem, which I actually have been able to do. So this may account for many of the problems that people have been reporting with Spektrum products. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this small helicopter into bind mode. So there's no transmitter turned on. I'm connecting the power, and you'll see it will go into bind mode, and that's indicated by the flashing blue light, which will come on in any second. There it is. Okay, I'll just move that out of the way. Now I'll bring this Spektrum radio into view. I'm holding the bind plug down, I'm turning it on. Now you see it's binding, it's picked up DSMX protocol from the helicopter, and there it's picked up telemetry as well, because this is one of the latest little brushless MCPX. So what I want to indicate to you now is in the top right hand corner, just here, the transmitter has told me that it is now bound in DSMX mode, and I think we can agree that that is actually working. And I'll just put the hold mode on so I can maneuver that collective up and down. Okay, so that's working fine. Now let's just look at a normal disconnection process. I'll disconnect the helicopter, I will turn off the radio. Now the next step is I'm going to turn on the radio, turn off the hold, turn off the throttle hold I had on. It's powered up, it's in DSMX mode, so now when we connect the power to the helicopter, there should be no issues with it linking to the transmitter. And there you go. It linked fine without any problems. Now what I'm going to demonstrate, I'm just going to turn off this helicopter. I'm going to power up my DX8 radio, simulating that I'm accidentally holding the bind button just for 1 second. So what I'll do that. Now just please take note of this DSMX in the top window. Turning off the radio, inadvertently holding down the bind button, even if it's just for 1 second, and I'll turn it on. Now the radio goes into bind mode, but it cannot detect a receiver, so it just starts to transmit in DSM mode. Once it finishes doing that, you'll see that the little DSMX is no longer there. Now, nor is the DSM2 indication. So I'm assuming from what I read on RCU that this radio is actually now in DSM mode, not DSM2 and not DSMX. And I could be corrected on that, but certainly the indication shows that. Now, if I turn on the helicopter, let's see what happens. It's going to go into bind mode because it's not understanding the protocol that the transmitter is putting out. There you go. Okay, so now this, if I didn't realise that I had accidentally pressed the bind button, then I would certainly believe that my helicopter has become unlinked, but it's not the case at all. It was actually finger trouble for my part on the transmitter. So anyway, it doesn't matter now how many times I turn off the helicopter or the radio, turn it back on, it's always going to come back in DSM mode. So it doesn't matter how many times I try this, I can do it all day, it's not going to solve the problem. The helicopter's just going to go back into bind mode every single time. There you go. The only way to correct this is to do another rebind. So let's try that. Transmitter is turned off. The helicopter's gone into bind mode. Let's just do a correct bind this time. Binding. Picked up the receiver on the helicopter. And it's confirmed there's telemetry there. And everything is good. So we're getting control response. Now, basically, as long as I just power off the transmitter and power it on again and ensure that I'm not accidentally pressing the bind button, there's never going to be any issue, because I've literally had aeroplanes bound to my Spektrum radios for years that have never had issues. Take that whole button off again. Okay, so there it is. Every time you power up the transmitter, it's going to power up in the correct mode. The only way it can lose the bind is if you power it up accidentally pressing the bind button on the transmitter. And what's actually happening now, and it was described fairly well in the post I read, was that it's not your aircraft becoming unbound, it's your transmitter that's become unbound because you've accidentally pressed the bind button. Anyway, I hope that helps somebody, and might go towards preventing other people experiencing these problems. Thanks for watching.